The stagecoach had not even fully stopped when she stepped down too fast and nearly stumbled into the dirt. People would later remember the tears first. They would remember how the young woman in the pale gray dress stood in the middle of Dry Hollow Station in the summer of 1876, her shoulders shaking, her gloved hands pressed to her face as if she had been holding herself together for miles, and finally could not anymore. But Levi Dawson remembered something else. He remembered how alone she looked. Levi had been leaning against the hitching post outside the station, boot resting on the lower rail, hat tipped low against the sun. He had come into town for supplies, and a letter he did not expect to receive. He had not come looking for trouble. He had not come looking for a woman crying in the middle of the street. Yet there she was, and the driver climbed down from the coach, shaking dust from his coat. "Long ride from Denver," he muttered to no one in particular. "Storm caught us near Red Butte." Levi's eyes stayed on the woman. She was not dressed like someone passing through. Her dress was simple but good quality. Her boots were clean despite the dust. A small trunk was lowered behind her, followed by a leather case she snatched up quickly, holding it tight against her chest, as if it was the only thing she trusted. A few townsfolk slowed their steps. Curiosity was common in Dry Hollow. Strangers were not. Levi pushed away from the post. He did not rush. He never rushed. But he walked steady toward her. When he came close, he removed his hat. "Ma'am," he said quietly. "You all right?" She lowered her hand slowly. Her eyes were red and swollen, and her cheeks wet, but there was something proud in the way she lifted her chin. She was trying to stand straight, even as her lips trembled. "I am fine," she said at once. The lie was gentle but clear. Levi glanced around at the watching faces. "You don't look fine," he answered, voice calm. "And this town ain't kind to folks who break down in the street." Her eyes flickered with fear at that. "I did not mean to draw attention," she whispered. "I only needed a moment." Another tear slipped down before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly, embarrassed. Levi stepped slightly to the side, blocking her from some of the staring eyes. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Clara Whitmore." "Levi Dawson." She nodded once. The driver dragged her trunk closer and looked between them. "She's the one answered that advertisement," he said. "Figured someone would be waiting." Levi's jaw tightened slightly. He had placed that advertisement 3 months ago. Widowed rancher seeking wife. Honest woman willing to work. Home ready. He had received 5 letters. 4 had stopped writing once they learned how far Dry Hollow truly was from anywhere that mattered. Clara Whitmore had not stopped writing. Her letters had been neat, thoughtful, careful. She had written about growing up in Missouri, about losing her parents young, about wanting a place where she could belong. She had not written about arriving in tears. Levi cleared his throat. "I was waiting," he said simply. Clara looked at him fully then, as if truly seeing him for the first time. He was broad-shouldered, sun-worn, his beard trimmed close, and his dark eyes steady and unreadable. He did not look cruel. He did not look soft either. She searched his face for something. Disappointment. Judgment. Regret. He gave her none of it. "I apologize," she said, her voice shaking again. "This is not how I wished to arrive." "That's so," he replied gently. "How did you wish to arrive?" "With dignity." "You still have it." The words caught her off guard. She stared at him. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said. "Not here. Not in front of me." Her breath hitched. For a moment she looked as though she might deny everything again. Then her shoulders sagged. "I'm afraid," she admitted. The truth seemed to cost her something. Levi nodded once. "Of me?" he asked. "No," she shook her head quickly. "Of starting over, but of failing again." He studied her carefully. "Dry Hollow ain't Boston," he said. "Ain't Denver either. Folks here care more about how you carry water than how you carry gossip." She swallowed. "There is gossip," she said softly. "About you?" She looked down at the leather case in her hands. "Yes." Levi did not press. He simply picked up her trunk and carried it toward his wagon. "You can tell me on the ride," he said. "Or not. But standing here crying won't change anything." She hesitated only a second before following him. He helped her into the wagon without touching her more than necessary. She sat stiffly, clutching the case to her chest again, as if it held something fragile. He climbed up beside her and flicked the reins. The horses moved forward, leaving the station and the curious stares behind. For a while, there was only the sound of wheels over dirt and wind through dry grass. Dry Hollow faded behind them. The open land stretched wide and golden under the late afternoon sun. Clara stared straight ahead. "I was engaged once," she said suddenly. Levi did not look at her. "All right." He was well respected. His father owned the largest store in our town. She paused, gathering courage. "When I ended the engagement, he told people I had behaved improperly, that I had led him on, that I was unstable." Her voice trembled again, but she kept speaking. "People believed him. It was easier than believing a woman might refuse a man simply because she did not love him." Levi's hands tightened slightly on the reins. "My position at the library was taken away. Invitations stopped coming. Friends stopped calling." She gave a quiet but broken laugh. "I did not cry then. I kept my chin up. I told myself I did not need them." She finally turned to him. "But when the stagecoach pulled into this town, and I saw how small it was, how far from everything I know, I realized I have nowhere else left to go if this fails." There it was, the real fear. Levi slowed the wagon slightly as his ranch came into view in the distance. A modest house, a barn, fencing stretching across open land. "If this fails," he repeated calmly, "it won't be because of gossip from Missouri." She searched his face again. "You are not angry?" she asked quietly. "That I did not tell you?" "You told me enough," he replied. "You said you wanted honesty, hard work, a place to build something real." "I do." "Then that's what matters." She blinked quickly, holding back fresh tears. "You are kinder than I expected." He gave a faint half-smile. "I ain't kind," he said. "I just don't see the use in punishing someone for surviving." The ranch grew closer. Clara's breathing steadied slowly. When they reached the house, a brown dog ran toward them, barking happily. Clara startled, then froze as the dog sniffed her skirt. "It's all right," Levi said. "That's Scout. He likes most people." Scout wagged his tail and nudged her hand. After a moment, she let out a small, uncertain laugh and bent down to pet him. Levi watched quietly. Inside the house, everything was simple but clean. A stone fireplace, a wooden table, shelves lined with a few worn books, a quilt folded neatly over the couch. Clara stepped in slowly, as if afraid she might disturb something. "It's not grand," Levi said. "It feels steady," she answered. He showed her the room he had prepared. Fresh linens, a small vase of wildflowers on the bedside table. She touched the petals gently. "You gathered these?" she asked. Figured a house shouldn't look empty when someone new walks in. She turned toward him, eyes softer now. Thank you. He stood in the doorway. Clara, he said. She looked up. If you stay, we do this honest. No pretending. No acting like you're someone you're not. I don't need a perfect wife. I need a partner. Her throat tightened. And if I am afraid sometimes, she asked, then you say so. And if I make mistakes, you fix them, same as I do. She took a slow breath. Outside, the wind moved through the grass. The world felt wide and uncertain. But inside that small room, something steadier began to take shape. I will stay, she said finally. Levi nodded once, as if that settled something deep inside him. Then welcome home, he replied. Clara looked around the room again, then back at him. For the first time since stepping off the stagecoach, her eyes were not filled with fear. They were filled with cautious hope. Neither of them knew how the town would react. Neither knew what storms might come. Neither knew how deeply past wounds could reach into a new life. But one thing had already changed. She had arrived in tears, and he had not asked her to hide them. The first week at Levi Dawson's ranch passed quietly, but quiet did not mean easy. Clara woke before sunrise each morning, not because she was rested, but because sleep did not stay with her long. The new house creaked in the night. The wind moved across the plains like a living thing. Every sound felt unfamiliar. Every shadow felt larger than it should. Still, she rose from the narrow bed, dressed carefully, and went downstairs before Levi returned from the barn. She wanted to prove she had not made a mistake. On the fourth morning, she was already kneading dough when Levi stepped inside, dust on his boots and the smell of hay clinging to his coat. He paused when he saw her at the table, sleeves rolled up, flour on her cheek. You don't have to wake so early, he said. I know, she answered, not looking up. But I prefer to. He studied her for a moment. Prefer to work, or prefer not to lie awake? Her hands stilled. She glanced at him, surprised. Both, she admitted. He washed up at the basin and sat at the table. You'll get used to the sounds. I am not afraid of the house, she said quickly. I didn't say you were. She exhaled slowly and set the pan in the oven. I am afraid of being useless, she corrected. Levi leaned back slightly in his chair. You rode here alone from Missouri. That ain't useless. That was desperation. That was courage. The word hung between them. She did not argue, but she did not accept it either. After breakfast, Levi asked if she wanted to see more of the property. She agreed, though the thought of riding far from the house tightened something in her chest. He saddled 2 horses and brought one to her. Her name's Belle, he said, steady as they come. Clara placed her hand on the mare's neck. The animal's warmth soothed her in a way she did not expect. You ride? Levi asked. My father taught me when I was young, she said softly. Before he passed. Levi nodded once and offered his hand to help her mount. She surprised him by swinging up on her own. He watched her settle into the saddle with quiet approval. They rode across open land that seemed to stretch without end. The sky was wide and pale blue, the grass shifting like waves under the breeze. Clara felt small beneath it all, but not in the same frightened way she had felt at the station. Levi pointed out the fence lines and the creek that cut through the property, the pasture where he kept most of the cattle. This all yours? She asked. Ours, he corrected calmly. If you mean to stay. The word still startled her. Ours. They rode in silence for a while until Clara spoke again. Will the town speak about me? Levi did not pretend not to understand. They'll be curious, he said. Curious ain't the same as cruel. And if they hear about my past, He looked at her then, directly. "Clara, folks here care about who shows up when a fence breaks or a child's sick. They don't care much about rumors from 3 states away." She wanted to believe him. When they returned to town 2 days later for supplies, Clara's hands trembled slightly as they rode down the main street. She wore her simplest dress, neat but plain. She did not want to appear proud. She did not want to appear weak either. Levi dismounted first and helped her down. Heads turned, not in judgment, in interest. At the general store, Mrs. Harper greeted them with a bright smile. "You must be Mrs. Dawson," she said warmly. Clara hesitated at the title. "Not yet," she replied gently. "But soon." Mrs. Harper's eyes softened. "You'll find this town small, but it holds together when it matters." Clara nodded politely, unsure what to say. As Levi spoke with the store owner about feed and tools, Clara wandered a few steps away, studying jars of preserves and bolts of fabric. She could feel eyes on her, but they did not burn the way they had back home. A young mother approached her shyly. "Are you the one who came from Missouri?" she asked. "Yes." "I heard you worked in a library." Clara blinked. "I did." The woman smiled. "We don't have much in the way of books here. My boy's just learning to read. Maybe you could help sometime." The request stunned her. Not suspicion, not accusation. A request. "I would like that," Clara said quietly. When Levi returned to her side, he noticed something had shifted in her expression. "You look steadier," he said. "I was asked to teach a child to read," she answered. And no one asked why I left. Levi gave a small nod. "Told you." On the ride home, clouds began to gather in the distance. The air felt heavy. By evening, the storm broke. Rain slammed against the roof, wind rattled the shutters, and thunder cracked across the sky. Clara jumped at the first loud strike, her breath catching sharply. Levi was already at the fireplace, building it higher. You ever been through a prairie storm?" he asked. "Not like this." He pulled a chair closer to the fire for her. "It sounds worse than it is," he said. "House is solid." Another crash of thunder shook the windows. Without thinking, Clara stepped closer to him. He noticed. He did not move away. "You're safe here," he said quietly. The words were simple, but they landed deep. She sank into the chair, her hands twisting in her lap. "In Missouri," she began slowly, "when the rumors spread, I would lie awake at night, imagining every whisper, every laugh, every door closing." Levi listened without interrupting. "I kept telling myself I was strong, that I did not care, but I cared. I cared very much." Her voice wavered. "I do not want to be that woman again, yet the one who pretends nothing hurts." Levi crouched slightly so he was level with her. "Then don't be," he said. She looked at him. "I don't need you fearless," he continued. "I need you honest." The storm raged outside, but inside the fire burned steady. She reached out before she could second-guess herself and rested her hand lightly on his sleeve. "Thank you," she whispered. He covered her hand with his own, firm and warm. They stayed that way until the thunder softened and the rain slowed to a gentle patter. The next morning, the air felt washed clean. Clara stepped outside alone while Levi was in the barn. The grass shimmered with droplets. The world looked renewed. She breathed deeply. For the first time since leaving Missouri, she did not feel like she was running. She heard hoofbeats before she saw the rider. A man approached from the far edge of the property, his posture confident, almost careless. He dismounted without waiting to be invited and tied his horse loosely to the fence. Clara's stomach tightened. "Morning," the stranger said. His eyes moved over her slowly. "You must be the new wife." "I am Clara Whitmore," she answered evenly. He smirked. "Name's Thomas Hale. I own the property east of here." She had heard Levi mention him once. A neighbor, not a close one. "Levi around?" Thomas asked. "He is in the barn." Thomas stepped closer than necessary. "Hope you know what you signed up for," he said quietly. "Ranch life ain't kind to delicate women." Clara felt heat rise in her chest. "I did not come here for kindness," she replied. "I came for honesty." His eyes narrowed slightly. Before he could respond, Levi's voice cut through the air. "Thomas." The single word carried warning. Thomas straightened, a lazy smile returning. "Just welcoming your bride." Levi stepped beside Clara, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the shift in the air. "She don't need welcoming," Levi said calmly. "She's home." Thomas studied them both, then gave a short nod. "Suit yourself." He mounted his horse and rode off without another word. Clara watched until he disappeared over the rise. "Does he cause trouble?" she asked quietly. "Oh, he likes to test fences," Levi answered. "And people?" "Sometimes." She looked at him carefully. "Will he test me?" Levi's jaw tightened slightly. "Not if he's smart." Clara met his eyes. "And if he isn't?" Levi held her gaze. "Then he'll learn." The air between them shifted again, heavier this time. Clara realized something in that moment. Starting over did not mean the world would suddenly become gentle. It meant she would have to stand steady when it was not.